Now, the parade did wrap up earlier than planned after pro-Palestinian demonstrators obstructed the march. They called on Pride organizers to cut ties with companies they allege are linked to Israel. And for more, I'm joined now by the executive director of Toronto Pride, Kojo Modeste, joining us in studio. Thank you for joining us as always. So maybe take us through what happened and what led to the decision to also inevitably use the word cancel parts of Pride.
No, thank you very much for having me and for us to be able to sort of set the record straight on what happened today. So, you know, we at Pride Toronto, a lot of work. My team put in a lot of work in organizing the Toronto Pride Parade, being one of the largest in the world. And you know what? Come tomorrow, we're going to start planning for 2025. Unfortunately, a group of protesters decided that they wanted to use the Pride Parade to make a political statement. And Pride is a protest. Pride will always be a protest. But Pride is a celebration and will always have aspects of celebration. And they decided, again, we were just about over 75% of the parade was already gone, and they halt and made some demands of us. What I did was that we have a council of elders that we use to support the work that we're doing, and brought the council of elders to try and negotiate with the group to see, hey, can we have a conversation later on? Let us move the parade on. Because one of the things that was really important for me this year was the hundreds and thousands of newcomers to Canada from the 2S LGBTQ community, that this was their first Pride. And I really wanted them to have that opportunity to celebrate a full parade, and that opportunity was taken away. Public safety is paramount for me, and it is for the organization. And the minute time I realized that we no longer, one, getting water to the parade participants that was left, it was almost impossible. The crowds were starting to flow in to each other. And at that point in time, I made the decision to halt and cancel the rest of the parade, again, all in the interest of the safety of the general public and the participants in the parade.
Now, you said before 75% of the parade had already gone through where this happened, which I believe was just north of Dundas, but more, it doesn't matter where. How many people were still expected to march, if you can tell us, that were either unable to or turn back early?
We had just around 67 groups that were still needed to go through the entire parade route. That opportunity was denied to them.
You did mention the group of elders that you have to help inform your decisions, and also, in this case, acting as mediators. Now, I don't know what may have come from their conversations with the demonstrators, but while we're here, we did get a statement from those demonstrators. I do want to read part of it to you. It says that they are looking for, specifically demanding Pride Toronto boycott, divest from, and sanction institutions and corporations that support or endorse the state of quote-unquote Israel, its apartheid system, and its occupation of Palestinian territories and people. Pride Toronto has yet to meet these demands and therefore has failed to denounce pinkwashing. The reason I wanted to ask you is, what do you make of that statement and that categorization?
You know, and again, it's left to its own interpretation. But one of the things that I want to stress, as a black queer man that was not born in this country, I seize every opportunity to educate myself, but also to educate others. And since taking on the leadership of Pride Toronto, I have seen many corporations who have done tremendous amount of work in terms of supporting the 2S LGBTQ community. My mandate at Pride Toronto is to support the 2S LGBTQ plus community here in Toronto. And yes, we have expanded beyond that. And in relation, we will not take monies from corporations that we feel are pinkwashing. Our sponsorship package is one that we make sure that any sponsor that comes on board are in line with the mandates of Pride Toronto, but are also demonstrating that in their workplaces. So we have turned away sponsors. So to tell us that the sponsors that we're working with are pinkwashing, I say that is false. Because these are corporations, these are organizations that are doing tremendous work in the 2S LGBTQ plus community, not just Prides, but many of the social service organizations that are providing services, direct services to the 2S LGBTQ plus community rely on many of the same sponsors that are working with Pride Toronto. So definitely, I think we're seeing things very different, and I'm open to a conversation. But for me, a conversation should not be happening when we have thousands of new immigrants, thousands of young people that this might have been their first Pride, thousands of allies that are there to support us. And then we are saying to them that we do not want their support. We do not need that allyship. We're saying to young people that are coming out for the first time that your first Pride is not as important as others. So I'm more than happy to have that conversation. But for me, it was not the time and place for that.
Now, speaking of that conversation, this isn't the first time, one, that Pride's been disrupted, and two, had accusations of pinkwashing. I think of the 2016 case where Black Lives Matter disrupted. There was a sit-in for about half an hour, but that ended with the parade continuing. What made this different?
And I will tell you something, and I'm saying this on national television. I was in the sit-in. I was in that sit-in with Black Lives Matter. And that protest was specific about Pride Toronto providing authentic service to the Black and Brown community. And those demands around working with the Black and Brown communities were very clear. What we saw today was asking Pride Toronto to make decisions on something that, yes, impact all of our lives. Because the war that is currently being fought in Gaza is impacting all of our lives. But there is a lot more that needs to understand. And I think, asking Pride Toronto and holding Pride Toronto accountable for that, that is what I think is unfair.
Now, you said at the beginning you wanted to help set the record straight. Now, just as you think about what the record's going to be in years to come about what 2024 Pride was, what do you think people should be taking away from the entire weekend, this particular experience, but both of those together, and what do you think the future will hold?
You know what? As we're having this conversation here, our community, the 2S LGBTQ plus community, are still on Church Street. They're still in Nathan Phillips Square. They're still at the Wellesley stage. And they have said to me, many people have called me and contacted me and say, you know what? Don't be discouraged. Pride this year was one of the best that we have seen. I want to thank my staff because they've worked above and beyond to make this happen. And we will not allow this one instant to stop us from continuing the work that we're doing, from working with our sponsors. 80% of Pride's budget comes from sponsorship. 15% comes from government, and 5% come from donations. So when folks are saying to us that, do not take monies from corporations and allow the community will donate, will the community donate the millions of dollars that it takes? And the other piece that I also want to get in, that Pride Toronto, the parade is only one aspect of this. The financial impact of Pride Toronto on queer-owned businesses is one that, again, if we continue along that road, it will be impacted. Many of the businesses on Church Street will tell you that they make over 40% of their income, their annual income, on Pride weekend. That's the kind of things that we need to be talking about. That's the kind of stuff that we need to be looking at and allow, the politicians, let's have conversations with the Prime Minister, let's have conversations with the Leader of Opposition on how we can put pressure on the Israel government, to put pressure on Hamas to address the concerns that are being raised.
Kojo, I appreciate your time. We're out of time now. This is Kojo Modeste, the Executive Director of Toronto Pride, joining us live in studio. We do thank you for your time, sir. And
thank you for having me.
I guess still happy Pride?
It's still happy Pride, and I'm going to go back and still get a little bit of what is left.
All right, then we're going to take it to break and let Kojo get out of here. Thanks very much.